by paying a settlement fee, usually about £500-600. Of course, as you can appreciate, that was horrendously unpopular, and there were many people who claimed to be innocent, and there was many mistakes being made, and people were proven to not have internet connections to that address, or elderly, or etc., etc. So it was all a big mess, but it culminated at the beginning of this year with ACS Law getting 27 of them to court. And when it first got to court, the holes in the evidence and the whole case themselves were sort of exposed a little bit. And what's happened recently is the judge that's currently presiding over this whole matter is Judge Burse, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Basically, all cases have been attempted to be dropped by ACS Law and Andrew Crosley. Unfortunately for him, the judge and the defendants in the cases don't want them dropped now, because they want to obviously put their case forward and hopefully get presumably some compensation or some sort of counterclaim against Mr. Crosley in these lawsuits, these cases that have been put against the court. The judge has highlighted many issues with the files. We've got issues about the weight of evidence against the defendants. For example, is IP data enough to find somebody guilty in a civil court when the balance of, or the weight of evidence is a balance of probabilities, but also the procedure in which ACS Law has dealt with these issues and dealt with these claims has been criticised as well by the judge. Now, Andrew Crosley is the sole solicitor at ACS Law, or he's believed to be, and he was recently under a lot of criticism after the email leak, which leaked his entire email library, as it were, to the public, and exposed people's names and details and the allegations and the titles in which they've been alleged to be sharing to the world. And that came as a result of a denial of service attack on his site, whereby it's believed that a bad administrator has inadvertently exposed the email database through incompetence to the public once the server's been brought online. So that's been running at the moment in London. As it stands now, the case has been adjourned while presumably while the judge looks over the paperwork, and there's been all sorts of allegations in the meantime, including a rogue company that very mysteriously appeared and started sending out allegations of claims of copyright infringement, and then disappeared again. And it's a very interesting story. So I'd recommend, I'll be putting a link on the show notes to Torrent Freak, where you can catch up with the whole scenario. And it's got like a chain of events which start probably about a year and a half ago. Very, very interesting. Who's right, who's wrong? Don't know. But if it goes the way that it's believed it will go now, Andrew Crosley could be responsible for removing the opportunity of this whole speculative invoicing scheme completely. It's been shown that the way that the data has been retrieved and the evidence that's been gathered isn't strong enough, or it's believed not to be strong enough. So have a read of that if you get a chance. Roy, I don't know if you want to make a quick comment on that. I know this was one of my particular.
So did you follow the the so-called the bill, or that's the nickname they gave to the digital economy bill?
Yes, sorry, you broke there for a second. Yeah, I'm unsure as to what the status of the DEB, or I've heard it called the Digital Economy Act and the Digital Economy Bill, but I'm unsure as to the status of that, because it all seems to have gone a little bit quiet.
They don't actually act upon it so much so far, but of course before that you had the Adopi, the French one, and this was about the three strikes rules being proposed. For a while it was said that the law hasn't been actually enforced against any of the population. Nobody was sued, nobody was actually disconnected or anything like that, even though the law was in fact passed. And more recently, I think they did actually start to take action against people in very large bulks, in fact trying to threaten the people, taking them offline. And what here you have with ACS Law is a very important case which could show you that the allegation based on IP address is not really a legitimate claim. And this is really important because, for several reasons, of course. And one of them is, of course, that if you share a connection with somebody in the house, it could be family, it could be a friend, it could be even a neighbor on the same, using your wireless connection, you could use, if that person is being disconnected from the web, you too will use your connection because that person can use any computer otherwise. And then there is collective punishment here for any person who happens to share the same house with a person who could be even illegitimately being accused of downloading something. It could be something like malware. You could actually design malware to install on somebody else's computer so that the malware goes and downloads something illegitimate, or maybe does it every day until the person is being disconnected from the internet. So it raises so many questions, and it's a really, really problematic. I think they start to approach the point now when they try to disconnect sites for just for users of the site uploading some content which is questionable and basically poisoning the well. One of the things they do, of course, is they try to demonize torrent, and they go protocol by protocol, peer to peer, and torrent. Next thing you know, it will be FTP or who knows what. The fourth things, well, one of the things they do, of course, is trying to sue people, and now you have the national laws where they threaten to disconnect people if they share something that's copyrighted, and of course the ISPs are being expected to be the policemen of these companies that sell you records. They are supposed to do surveillance on you and to judge what is copyright infringement, and of course you have things like fair use. So then, people can download some track of, I don't know, of Michael Jackson or something. It could be just half a minute of the track, which would qualify perhaps as fair use. So it's impossible to do that. And it's a complete mess, and they try to completely mess up the internet, the markets, the ISPs, to raise the costs of the ISPs just so that they can ensure that they get more money. And this is troubling.
Yeah, I mean, it has so many worrying facets. The first one which springs to my mind is that, yes, if we can establish, we know that the IP data is not good enough as evidence on its own, because, like Roy says, it could be anybody in the household, or it could even be somebody sitting in the street who happens to have hacked that particular access point. However, if it is somebody in that household, say a young child, 8, 9-year-old who's downloading, I don't know, S Club 7 or something like that, this is where it starts to get a bit worrying, because we've got a situation where the ISP and the government are getting involved in dealing with these allegations, which aren't easy to prove, as ACS law is proving now, and people are suffering. My cousin is currently a student at university, and he shares a house with, I think, 8 other students, and they all share the same access point. So, of course, if one of them was to be alleged to infringe on somebody's copyright, they are all going to suffer, and that's the education of all of them, not just the one person who may have been infringing on a copywriter, allegedly. So it has got some worrying facets to it, and I think as well what's missed, I think the ISP has to take some responsibility here, because when you look at the adverts for your broadband and for connection speeds, the ISPs sell their services and products as the greatest, the fastest thing, and the adverts that I see certainly don't suggest that they're anti-copyright infringement. They're certainly selling their sites on selling their services on the basis that, you're going to get the best speed with us, and really, for high definition video, or for the average things that the average user is going to use, if you're not downloading large quantities of data, then some of the speeds that we're getting up to now aren't really needed. So what other reason could they be used for?
What right now is voice over IP. So, and then of course people download some music and some songs which are completely encouraging people to share them even in large quantities. So I think you're falling into the trap of saying high bandwidth equals illegal. And that's very, very dangerous.
Yeah.
Suggest.
Yeah, not so. But what I mean is, the I don't want to say consumer, but the person that is intending on downloading, infringing on copyright or downloading copyrighted material, is being sold these type of services by companies who don't seem to mention the fact that you may get into trouble, or there may be an effect of downloading copyrighted material, rightly or wrongly. They're advertising a fast service and saying, "Hey, look, you can get yourself 50 megabits speed here." And let's be real, who needs 50 megabits? Who needs 50 megabits?
First of all, on that, I've got a few things that I've been storing up here. Just on the latest thing about advertising speeds. Who in the hell actually gets those speeds?
Yeah.
They advertise up to 8 meg, and then you connect, and what's the best you get? You get 2 meg. because
could
that's
get that
because
within
that's
the
where you
house
are
or
from.
within the neighborhood. You can get that. It
Yeah,
depends on
exactly.
where. Yeah.
Exactly. So it depends. It's entirely what they advertise with broadband is very very variable as to what you actually